Good afternoon. The entire world is shocked by the news there in the Middle East, and here in Sri Lanka, more news comes in as elections draw to a close as well. Welcome to Lunchtime News. You're here with me, Sandro Satyajit. First, on to your headlines.
Death toll rises above 4,000 after Turkey-Syria earthquakes. President says Sri Lanka has initiated an action plan to ensure green economy by 2050. Sri Lankan government decides to close down 55 project officers with excess staff. Constitutional Council to meet for the appointment of new members to the independent commissions.
Moving on to your top story of the day, news that shook the entire world. Turkish authorities have confirmed the deaths of 2,921 people after its southeastern region bordering Syria was rocked by major earthquakes. Now a further 1,444 people are confirmed to have died in Syria, while 15,834 others were injured. Now residents of Turkey's Hatay province, where many people remain trapped under rubble, say they have had little help since Monday's earthquakes.
Thousands of buildings collapsed in Turkey and Syria, and aid agencies are particularly worried about northwestern Syria, where more than 4 million people were already relying on humanitarian assistance. At least 5,606 buildings collapsed in Turkey during and after the earthquake, according to Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Agency. There are reports of similar devastation in northern Syria. According to experts, several archaeological sites in Syria were damaged by the earthquake. In Turkey, a tremor badly damaged Gaziantep Castle, a historic site and tourist attraction in southeastern Turkey. The earthquake, one of the strongest to hit the region in more than 100 years, struck 23 kilometers east of Nadagi in Turkey's Gaziantep at a depth of 24.1 kilometers, the US Geological Survey said. Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Management Agency is urging people to stay off the roads to help search and rescue efforts following the earthquake. At least 300,000 blankets, 24,712 beds, 19,712 tents have been sent to affected earthquake areas. Drone footage shows massive destruction in Turkey's border province Hatay. Plumes of smoke below from flattened buildings as rescue workers climb over collapsed structures looking for survivors. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck in the early hours of Monday and caused devastation across southern Turkey and northern Syria. The first two Indian disaster relief teams left for Turkey on Monday night, according to the Indian Air Force. The Indian Air Force tweeted Tuesday that a C-17, a strategic transport aircraft, left for Turkey bearing search and rescue teams of the National Disaster Response Force. Japan has sent the country's disaster relief rescue team in response to the earthquake in Turkey, according to a Monday statement by Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Los Angeles County Fire Department is sending 78 members of their urban search and rescue team to Turkey. Planes carrying aid shipments from Iraq and Iran arrived at Damascus International Airport. The Iranian aid arrived on Monday, and the Iraqi aid was delivered early Tuesday morning. 10 units of Russian army with a total of more than 300 soldiers are involved in clearing debris and helping in search and rescue operations in Syria. Russia is the strongest foreign power operating in Syria, and Putin has long allied himself with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, throwing the full weight of the Russian military behind the Syrian army. The World Health Organization expects a significant jump in the death toll following a major earthquake and its aftershocks in the southern Turkey and northwestern Syria that reduced many buildings to rubble. The WHO has warned that those numbers are likely to increase as much as 8 times as rescuers find more victims in the rubble. Many of the victims are in war-torn northern Syria, where millions of refugees live in camps on both sides of the border with Turkey. There have been dozens of fatalities reported in rebel-held areas.
Now, a point of concern for Sri Lankans is whether Sri Lankans are affected. Now, Sri Lankan authorities are to obtain information about a Sri Lankan woman reported missing in Turkey.
The Sri Lankan embassy in Turkey said that it has not been able to access information with regard to the Sri Lankan woman who was reported missing following the devastating earthquakes. A senior officer attached to the mission said that the mobile device of the Sri Lankan woman was traced. The officer also noted that earlier it was reported that the building in which she was living had collapsed. However, reports later suggested that she had vacated the premises before the earthquakes. Foreign Minister, President's Council Ali Sabri stated that a contingent of 300 military personnel are ready to be deployed in Turkey as soon as request for help is made. The contingent will include Sri Lanka Army engineers and personnel from the Medical Corps.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe said the government has prepared a National Adaptation Plan and National Environment Action Plan to ensure a green economy and a better world by 2050. President Ranil Wickremesinghe, addressing a high-level event on strategies and actions to accelerate Sri Lanka's transition to a green growth pathway in Colombo, noted that Sri Lanka has the potential to establish the green economy, especially by way of renewable energy. The event was organized by the Ministry of Environment and the Global Green Growth Institute (GGGI).
Sri Lanka is in the process to decrease carbon emissions by 14.5% by 2030 and more thereafter. We are creating the Climate Change Office operating under the President's Secretariat to coordinate all action in regard to climate change. Then we have prepared a Natural Adaptation Plan and the National Environment Action Plan. All of this is being taken as initiative by our government so that we ensure a green economy and a better world by 2050. We are developing the Net Zero 2050 plan that aims for carbon neutrality. We will not increase further energy capacity via coal power. We will phase out the fossil fuel subsidies. We are already doing that and we have come under attack from the opposition for phasing it out. And we will aim for 70% of renewable energy for electricity generation by 2030. There are many initiatives that we will be taking for this period. Firstly, a new Climate Change Act, which will incorporate the Climate Change Office. New Environment Act to replace the old one, which was enacted in the early 1980s, and one which will cover reforestation, forest cover and tree cover. Now we are grappling with the issue of a green economy. That's where we want to go. We find that we have the potential, especially on renewable energy. With the help of the Asian Development Bank, we are assessing what our capacity for renewable energy and green hydrogen would be. Some say we'll have an excess capacity of about 30 gigawatts, some say 40, some say 50, but we'd want to have the assessment that will be made by the Asian Development Bank. So we already then call for investments in this region. This is one area that we can prosper in.
You will be able to overcome all these difficult times for genuine democracy and sustainable economic growth and social development. Sri Lanka is a very honorable member. I will spare no effort to work with your people to make sure that your people will enjoy genuine peace and freedom and sustainable development. You can count on me. I understand the government's first priority is reaching an agreement with the International Monetary Fund, IMF. GGGI believes Sri Lanka should consider opportunities for further debt reduction with a debt for nature and for a debt for climate swap. If successfully arranged, such transactions can reduce sovereign debt, as well as bring much-needed resources to conservation and climate action.
Moving on to some other local news, the Sri Lankan government has decided to close down 55 project offices that employ a large number of personnel. Now, Cabinet spokesperson Minister Bandulu Gunawardena made the announcement during the Cabinet media briefing on Tuesday. The Cabinet of Ministers has decided to close down the project officers based on the recommendations of the committee appointed to review the project officers, POs, and project management units, PMUs. As per the report of the committee, it was recommended to suspend the operations of 32 project officers and maintain another 46 project officers with minimum staff. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Bandulu Gunawardena said the matter was extensively discussed in Cabinet. As per the request made by the ministers, the President had agreed to reach a decision on closing down all 55 project officers in the future. Cabinet has granted approval for the appointment of 10 committees to manage the expenses at 10 ministries. The committees will be chaired by a Deputy Treasury Secretary or a senior official of the Treasury. The committee will operate on the basis to deliver a more efficient and productive service by identifying the maximum wastage and low prominence activities at the 10 ministries that were given the highest budgetary allocations. The expenditure heads of the Ministries of Transport and Highways, Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government, Education, Plantation Industries, Security, Public Security, Irrigation, Urban Development and Housing will be managed. Cabinet has instructed the legal draftsman to prepare a new legal draft to introduce amendments to the Employees Trust Fund Act. The Budget 2023 proposed to set up an insurance fund to provide coverage for private sector employees similar to the already existing Agrahara medical insurance scheme in the public sector. The Cabinet spokesperson said in order to enact this budget proposal, the Employees Trust Fund ETF Act needs to be amended. The Cabinet of Ministers has also granted approval to revise the base year of the Sri Lanka Consumer Price Index. The base year used for compilation of the National Consumer Price Index will be revised to 2021 from 2013. Meanwhile, trade unions representing professionals are expected to launch an island-wide trade union action. The matter was raised at the Cabinet media briefing as well on Tuesday. We cannot take decisions based on assumptions. If such a situation happens, what we have to say is that if the government has a way of providing a solution, we do not shy away from it. You understand this pain. But now we cannot undo the situation that has arisen. Any country in the world runs on taxes.
ජනතාව විසින් ගෙවන බදු මුදල් වලින් තමයි ලෝකේ ඕනේ ආණ්ඩුව පවත්වාගෙන යන්නේ.
With a hint of concern, journalists also questioned on repaying the $200 million loan provided by Bangladesh by September.
බංග්ලාදේශයේ ණය මුදල් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා. දැනට අපි ණය නොගෙවීම
Bangladesh has requested to repay the debt. Certain countries have filed cases against us for not repaying. The case was also filed in the United States of America against the Sri Lankan government for not repaying the debt. Sri Lanka has appointed Clifford Chance as its legal representative in these international matters. In addition, we have also obtained the services of Lazard with regard to debt issues. If we can restructure the debt by the end of this year, we should be able to come to an agreement with the IMF and establish international confidence on us. We can expect more concessions to the people.
බොහෝ සානයන් ජනතාවගේ පැත්තට ලබා දෙන්න පුළුවන්කම ලැබෙයි.
Sri Lanka's election headquarters.
The National Election Commission met election monitors for talks on Tuesday. The National Elections Commission said that matters relating to the election law, election monitoring and the postal election were discussed. In addition, the election monitors have revealed the pre-election period for the local government election remains calm. Executive Director of the Institute of Democratic Reforms and Electoral Studies, IRES, Manjula Gajanayaka, said that compared to the elections that took place over the past decade, this time around the run-up period to the election is calm. Now here are the views expressed in the political sphere leading up to the local government election.
The people are trying to overcome this struggle by defeating these present rulers in any type of election. Now an election has been called for. Ranil Rajapaksa are trying to postpone it. There's news once the parliament is convened on the 8th, they are planning to bring a bill stating insufficient funds to conduct the elections. We are telling the government, don't try to stop the elections through such tricks.
They're
saying we are trying to postpone the elections. If there's a possibility, we could have done it at the onset. Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna is a powerful party. We started with 4.9 million votes and no one in the country holds a voter base as this. We speak to the people. Even despite a small concern, there's no reason for them to move away.
හැරෙන්ට කිසි හේතුවක් නැහැ.
අපේ සහෝදර සහෝදරියෝ දන්නවා ගම්වල
Everyone in the country know the situation of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. They are afraid of visiting people. As a result, the continuity of Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna will be demolished. Thereafter, Ranil Wickremesinghe also will lose his continuity. There are factors influencing them to postpone the election. At this moment, it has come to a situation where the election cannot be postponed completely. However, they have not given up.
හැබැයි මුළුමනින්ම පස්සට දාගන්න ක්‍රමයකුත් නැති තත්වයක් නිර්මාණය වෙමින් එනවා. තාමත් ඒක අතහැරලා නිසා මේ අවිනිශ්චිතකම ඉවර නැහැ.
මේ ඡන්දේ තියෙන්නේ දෙපාර්ශ්වයක් අතර.
The real competition in this election is between two parties. One side are the architects. On the other side, you have the demolishers. You all go to the village and ask who are they planning to vote for. If you require this to be destroyed further, you can hand the country to them. If not, hand over the village to the people who rescued the country.
පන්ට රට බාර දෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් මේ රට ගොඩනගපු රට නිර්මාණය කරපු අයට මේ ගම බාර දෙන්න පුළුවන්.
දැන් මේ මැතිවරණයට වැඩි
The government does not favor this election. People want an election. The extent the government is against the election is immeasurable. The people's mandate in August 5th of 2020 is invalid now. March 9th is the day that the people, through an election, will re-establish their mandate.
ඉල්ලාස් කරගෙන තියෙන කියන එක ඔප්පු කරන දවස තමයි මාර්තු 9 වෙනිදා 10 වෙනිදා උදේ වෙනකොට ජනතාව ජනවරම ඉල්ලාස් කරගෙන ඇති බව ආණ්ඩුවට.
The Constitutional Council is expected to meet on Tuesday. The adoption of a new methodology in selecting and appointing members to the Constitutional Council will likely be discussed at the meeting. Applications are called from individuals who possess the requisite qualifications for the appointment as members of the independent commissions as decided by the Constitutional Council. The deadline for the submission of applications is the 15th of February.
Meanwhile, the fourth session of the 9th Parliament is scheduled to be ceremoniously declared open on Wednesday by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Now, following the ceremonial opening of this session, President Wickremesinghe is scheduled to present the statement of government policy in Parliament at 10 a.m. Now, according to the powers vested in him under Article 33 of the Constitution. Narendra Fernando, the Sergeant-at-Arms of the Sri Lankan Parliament, said that ceremonial opening of the fourth session will be a simple ceremony and thus gun salutes and motorcades shall not be held. On to news overseas now. The Pentagon says that Chinese spy balloons had briefly flown over the United States at least 4 times in the past few years. Now, a U.S. Air Force fighter jet shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon off South Carolina coast on Saturday.
A senior U.S. general responsible for bringing down a Chinese spy balloon said on Monday the military had not detected previous spy balloons before one that appeared on January 28 over the United States and called it an awareness gap. However, the Pentagon said over the weekend that Chinese spy balloons had briefly flown over the United States at least 3 times during President Donald Trump's administration and one previously under President Joe Biden. Air Force General Glenn Van Herk, head of U.S. North American Aerospace Defense Command, said the latest balloon was 200 feet tall and the payload under it weighed a couple of thousand pounds. He did not provide details on previous balloons, including where over the United States they flew.
Aaron Finch has announced his retirement from T20 internationals, bringing an end to his Australia career.
Space to allow a new captain to take over and move the team in their direction, and it's been a pretty amazing journey, so thank you to everyone. I will just say a few thank yous to some people along the way, and that starts with the Geelong Cricket Club and Colac West Cricket Club, who have been huge supporters of mine and I suppose had a huge influence on my journey. Times as a young player and the development of me as a player and as a person, so thank you to everyone involved at the Geelong Cricket Club and Colac West. to my family, my mum and dad, for amazing support right throughout. My two brothers, Matt and Jason, and my sister Jess, and of course my wife Amy and daughter Esther. When you're on the road for best part of 12 years, you go through some highs and you go through some lows, and to always have my family there to support me has been amazing, and that's always been unwavering. So I'm very thankful for that.
That's all the news for now. Await more updates on our social media pages for constant and accurate updates as the news develops. Bringing you the news from News Desk, I'm Sandro Sathijit signing off. Take care.
At the KTN, that's the ready. Cyber අවකාශයේ කලබන වුවත් සලකුණ. News First YouTube channel අදම subscribe කරන්න. News First ජනතාව සමග. News First News Alert ඔබේ ජංගම දුරකථනයටත් ඔබ ඩයිලොග් පාරිභෝගිකයෙක් නම් English Alert සේවාව ලබා ගැනීමට NFU ලෙසත් Singlish Alert සේවාව ලබා ගැනීමට NUS ලෙසත් Tanglish Alert සේවාව ලබා ගැනීමට NAT ලෙසත් ටයිප් කර 678ට send කරන්න.